welcome you today on this lovely evening. So, for today's talk, we have Pritesh Nandgoankar. He's a software engineer at Facebook London. He will be giving us a talk about opportunities in software development and will explain what exactly is software development.
Hey guys, it's good to be on the other side and giving a talk on what I have learned and what are the opportunities in software development. Uh, it has been a pleasure for me to give this talk. Let's begin. So before going into what are the opportunities in software development, let's understand what is software development. Or as you know, like Yashodhan already introduced me. So I'm an electrical engineering 2015 graduate, worked in housing.com and now in Facebook London. So yeah, I think this we can skip. So let's understand what is software development. So this is the Wikipedia definition. Like the software development is the process of conceiving, specifying, designing, programming, documenting, testing, and bug fixing involved in creating and maintaining applications, frameworks, or other software components. So, it sounds too complex. There are a lot of terms involved in there, and most of you might not know what it actually means. So let's break it down. So in simple language, like software development is nothing but building a software. So it so for this for building a software, it might involve a lot of things. Like first of all, you will have to decide what you have to build. So here that comes the conceiving part. So you will have to conceive the idea as to what kind of software you will be building, and for that you will need to know what are your audience, what are the requirements, and how you can solve that requirement through software. So that is the conceiving phase. And then once you have figured out your problem statement, like okay, this is the problem I will be solving, and this is how I imagine my software to solve this problem. Then comes the phase of specifying design. So then you will think, okay, like this problem can be solved in multiple of ways via software. So which way should I pick? Like what kind of design, like both like UI and the backend design we should use, or like everything, like specifying, or basically we say this as design specs. So basically writing a design spec as to how you will go about building this software. And then once you write this thing up, like once you have decided the design spec, you can go about building it. Like go about write code, build programs. So so this is the implementation phase. And then once you have written it, so you might need documentation, because some of your audience might need to read about, okay, like what does this program do, how can I use it. Without documenting, that program might not be useful for people, because they might not find it how to use what it does and how to efficiently use it. So documentation is an important thing as well, like which people usually do not give attention to. And also testing, like testing is also as important as writing program, or designing spec, or writing documentation, because like if you write tests, and if you do thorough testing, you will figure out a lot of bugs before shipping your software. So like thorough testing is also a must. And then once you do all this thing and ship your product, still there might be some bugs which you had shipped, which you might learn from the user. So there comes the bug fixing part. So you will be taking in bug fixing efforts to fix it and then ship it again. So in totality, like this is how the software development looks like, and that is what actually software development means. So yeah, I think this is clear as to like what it means. Um, and maybe like you can ask about it later in the Q&A section. So yeah, so like once we have understood what the software development means, let's understand like different kind of work streams involved in building the software. So as I briefly mentioned, like there can be back-end services, a front end. So let's understand what those terms mean. Like you might have heard about those terms before, but you might not know actually what it means. So let's briefly go through those terms. Um, so yeah, so typically in any tech company, there are these roles which people might be working in. So there are back-end engineers, web front-end, iOS app engineers, Android app engineers, full stack engineers, DevOps engineers, and AI ML engineers. And of course, there are many other engineers as well. So firmware engineers, OS developers, compilers, engineers who write compilers. So variety of roles. So let's understand like what does this roles do, and what are the like what actually people work in this roles. So backend engineers. So let's understand what does the backend mean. So backend actually means like uh, so let's understand front end first. So the front end is the thing which you see on any software, like the UI which you see in any software. So let's say like you log in into facebook.com, so you saw a blue screen, buttons, and news feed and all those stuff, right? So that is being done by a front end engineer. So uh, the main role of the front front end engineer is to write the good UX, is to build good UI so that it's intuitive to the users, and like it's compatible for different browsers as well. So there are, I know, like there are a lot of incompatibilities between Chrome, Firefox, and between different Chrome versions as well. So those kind of uh, like coding work is done by the front end engineers, making things look good. And now, as you understand front end, so technically like backend means like backend usually takes care of data, like how you will store data, how you will design your databases, how you will make it efficient. As to if you store your data in one machine, and if that machine dies off, then like you will lose that data, right? So how you will make that robust? So you will plan things out as to how will you replicate this data, how will make the queries faster, because let's say you want to open newsfeed shouldn't take long time to load, right? And newsfeed is different for different kind of users. So like just understand like the queries should be faster, it should provide you with good results and thorough results. So that those kind of like the query management, like writing to the databases, designing databases, making it robust, scaling it for billions of users. So that's the job of the backend engineers. um, we went to the web front-end engineers. So as I said, like their job is to make good lucid UI, make it intuitive so that users are not confused as to like this button does what, like my scrolling is not fast, my this thing doesn't work. So all those kind of things are being handled by like web front-end engineers. And now, as like most of the users are also on mobile, so we have iOS app engineers and Android app engineers. So similarly like the web front end, iOS app engineers role is to build iOS app, uh, use the APIs which are provided by the backend to populate the data into your app, make it lucid, make it good, make the app look good. So similarly, like Android app engineers does that, but for Android. And then comes the full stack engineers. So the as the name suggests, full stack engineers can actually do both of the things, like the back end and the front end. So So usually, like they might also know the mobile stuff as well. But usually, full stack engineers, as far as I know, means they can work on back end and the web front end. But like technically, they can work anywhere, and they like so that's the full stack engineers. Like they can work on multiple of these roles. And then comes the DevOps engineers. So DevOps means developer operations. So so as you know, like this engineers, like this role is quite important because as you know, like backend engineers write stuff, build services, deploy it to multiple of the machines. So it so there has to be some mechanism to deploy this to the multiple machines and make their life simpler. Like they should have some easy tool to do this, and and make sure that there is no downside, there is no downtime on the server. So that is being handled by the DevOps. So DevOps tech usual role is to ease the deployment process for the backend engineers, like the services they write, the softwares they write, the programs they write to deploy it to multiple machines, make that scalable, reduce downtime. Like if there's any downtime, understand why is that so and fix it. Like those, that is the job of DevOps, and sometimes they are also called as production engineers. They are synonymous. So yeah, and then like AI ML engineers. So as you all know, like it's a hot topic. So it doesn't need much explanation. But yeah, like these engineers work on modeling, coming up with data models and building machine learning models to understand the user behavior and predict things out so that machines are smarter and they can understand what actually user needs, provide some user specific notifications, user specific data to them. So yeah, like that's the role of AI ML engineers. And of course, as I said, like there are firmware engineers, so the engineers which who write softwares for hardware, like the adapt bridge kind of, like they bridge the gap between the hardware and the software and make them work together. But in typical tech companies, you won't find firmware engineers. Then comes OS developers, so it's really like deep down. So in typical tech companies, you won't find this role like OS developers, compiler authors. You will reuse these things. Like why you will build it on your own. So yeah, and yeah. So having understood these roles, and you might be thinking, okay, like this all seems too complex, and okay, how can I go about working in these roles, or how can I know how to get this thing, how to get started? And do I need any degree? Like I'm not a CS engineer. Like can I go and work in the streams of roles? So as you all know, like I'm not a CS degree holder, so it's totally possible. Uh, you do not need to have a CS degree to work in these roles or to work in any of the tech companies. They just need uh, they just need that you know how things work, and they just need you to know the hands-on experience. So yeah, like you just need to have interest and a good internet connection. That's it actually. Like everything is there on the internet. So uh, you can learn it. Like there are good tutorials, like with the advent of Coursera and like the learning platforms, it has become so easy. And of course, yeah, like the basic programming skills taught in our institute like gets you started really well. Like that's I think helps you understanding the basics. And I think that's it. Like then you can then your interest can take you to the places, like you can see like where your interest lies, and is it iOS, Android, web front end, back end, or something like that. So, and as I like, even I have written that the technologies which are used in the industry is not something which is usually taught in colleges. So even the CS degree holders, even the computer science graduates might be learning from the same documentation, tutorial, or the website as you would be learning, because it's not something which is being taught like in the colleges. Like one example which I can say is that, as far as I know, like I might be wrong, but Android or iOS development is not being taught in colleges, and most of them are learned, like most of them learn through online documentation, tutorials, and building apps on their own. So yeah, like one example is this, and also there are multitude of examples in even in back-end engineering roles, web front-end engineering roles. Of course, uh, like the computer science graduates have been taught the basics of database design and the things to be considered, but like you can learn that thing on your own when you start writing your application, start writing your software. So that is not something like which you will miss. You will learn that anyway when you start working on it. So that is not to be concerned about. And yeah, like so just have interest, have passion, and like the internet connection. Like that's it. And of course, like when you start working and building softwares, you will realize that most of the times you will reuse stuff. So, for example, let's say in iOS app development. Let's say you want to show a scroll view, so you won't go ahead and build scroll view or build some higher level component multiple of times, because it doesn't make sense, right? Like it's something which is being useful for uh, most of the applications. So in most of these cases, like you will see that some engineer or some developer has built some software and had shipped it on open source so that you can reuse it, and that makes life easier. Like you will your life easier and their life too, because even they had to build this for their own stuff, and maybe like the others can contribute on that software for improvement. So that's a good segue to working on open source. So let's say like you started working on your stuff, you built some awesome component or awesome utility software which you feel like is useful but is not being available right now, and and it will be useful for most of the developers. So it's a good idea to just not hold it to yourself, and just release it and make it open source. Because one, like definitely, like there might be some bugs in there might be something which is broken, which might be broken in some cases. So users will come to your project and contribute it, or maybe raise this issue so that you know that there is an issue. So you can fix it, or you can ask them to fix it. So that's a good thing, because uh, there is a community involved, and like the community takes care of the project itself, and you also get recognition, right? Like uh, suppose like you release this project, and then like hundreds of users are using it, like you will feel good, right? Like you will feel that okay, like this thing which I built is useful. It's not just me that it's not just me who is using it. So yeah, like it gives you satisfaction, it builds the software and makes it robust as well. So yeah, and so for example, like this is my open source, like the my profile on like GitHub. So here you can see like few of the projects like the React Native call detection, card stack, Flipper, Yoga. So the first one is the one which I personally built, and it is being used by many users. And you can see the star, but it's not like it's kind of okay star, but but I saw the download number of downloads made, and it's quite good. So yeah, like I felt good, and I built this library while working at housing.com because they had a specific need for detecting the call states out of the React Native application, and that thing didn't exist in open source, or that was not provided by the framework called React Native, which I was using. So I thought, okay, why not? Like, anyway, I am building this thing, and this might be useful for most of the users. So I went ahead and abstracted out my logic in such a way that I can publish it, even housing can use it, and others can use it. So that's the one example which I worked on, and the current one which I'm working on is like for Facebook, like the second one, the Facebook Flipper. So even like that is open source, and I contributed regularly over there. So yeah, like even like this thing is a debugging platform for mobile developers. So you can debug your mobile applications. Like you can see the layout hierarchy, you can see network calls and bunch of other things. You can build your own stuff into that software, and that is open source. So that is one of the things. So one way to figure out like which one is mine and which one is the one I'm working for. So you can see like there is Facebook slash written over there. So that is being owned by like that is on not owned by that is being like distributed from Facebook. It's not distributed from my account, but I am contributor over there. So that is the differentiation between the first one and the second one. So the first one is being distributed by me, like it is it was published by me and distributed by me. So yeah, and I am the contributor as well. And like yeah, like there are multiple things. So there is Swift package manager by Apple, which I used to contribute. Like it's an open source thing, so anyone can go ahead and contribute. So yeah, like you can understand, like see, like you can go and see open source softwares of any company, Facebook, Apple, Google, and if you feel interested, you can go and improve it and fix bugs and do whatever you want, like not whatever you want, like make it good. Don't be a bad influence on the community, but yeah, like the good stuff. So yeah, having said that, like this helps a lot. Like let's say like you continuously contribute on, let's say, Apple's open source project, let's say Swift package manager. Like this is the actual example which has happened to my friend. So he constantly contributed to this project, and he soon became the top contributors, and then he was hired by Apple. Like I'm not kidding. So like it's just doing open source development, making good contributions, gets can get you a into good companies. So that's a good thing. That's a good segue to like the how you can aim top companies. So one which I already said, like you can contribute on open source, you can make their software good, so they can understand. So they will know that okay, like this guy knows how things work and how to handle these complex projects, complex software. So like it's a good testing ground for them to see what kind of to whom to approach, and like to see like what kind of work you can do. So that's a good thing for them and for you as well, as you can showcase what you have built. So one, like yeah, definitely open source projects. And second, like even if you do not have any open source projects, that is fine, but they need to actually have candidates who have hands-on experience of building complex things, who have thorough knowledge in their field. They can like build scalable solutions for the kind of audience or the users they have, like users these companies have. So yeah, like even if you do not have open source projects, you can showcase some, you can if you can showcase this through either of your projects or projects in your companies or side projects, that is fine as well. Like it's totally good. So so yeah, like one advice, like I'm just coming to the end of my slide. So one advice I will give you give you guys is that keep learning, because if you go through my story, like in college I used to do Android app development, and I was good at it. Like I learned it, then I felt so good, like I was able to build an app. Then I worked on it, understood a lot of the nuances of Android app development, and then I thought, okay, like what next? I felt like, okay, let's try out iOS app development. So I went on to housing.com and worked on as an iOS app developer. And over there, I learned a lot as an iOS app developer, built open source softwares as well, wrote their applications as well, understood actually how you can ship the apps, or like the production ready apps to the users. So that's a good experience. And then I went at Facebook, and even at Facebook I thought, okay, like I know iOS app development and Android app development, so let's do something else. So I started working on uh, again an open source project by Facebook, which is a C++ library, which I hadn't worked on before, like which I hadn't worked on a C++ core project before. So I thought, why not? Let's give it a try. So I worked on it, like I enjoyed it. I learned a bunch of things. Then I moved on to front end development. Like I built front end websites, front end UI for the application. Like it involves JavaScript and the entirely different technologies which I had worked on before. Then I also worked on the back end side of things, as like just I just kept exploring, and like this gives you a good understanding as to how how in totality a software works. So let's say you use a website or a Facebook ad, like you will understand, okay, like what is the entire end-to-end flow. If you keep learning, if you keep going through different streams, do not restrict yourself, give yourself chance to understand different roles. Yeah uh, yeah, that's what I will advise you guys, to just keep learning and keep learning. And here are my details. If you want to reach out to me, like this is LinkedIn, Twitter, GitHub. Yeah, like you can follow me or like see my projects on GitHub. If you are interested, you can contribute on it as well. Yeah, so that's the details about me. You can contact me over here, and yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's my talk. Uh, I'm happy to answer your questions. All right.
Uh, Thank you for the talk. Wonderful
Yeah.
knowing about your expertise, learning.
Yashwardhan, your voice is too low, like and breaking in between. Can you fix that?
Can you hear me now? It's
Yeah, I
better.
can hear you now. Yeah.
I was just saying that it was wonderful to know how you started learning Android while still in college, then
Yeah.
worked your way up through housing, then still landed in iOS, eventually landed a job at Facebook, trying a lot of different things apart from
Yeah.
Android. Will be a good learning experience for all our participants. So I'll just start with there are a few questions which have been posted on chat. So I'll start from the first one. It's kind of a general question. So guy says, being from electrical department where most of the coursework is hardware based and not software. So, and it is also famous for being heavier than other departments. How did you how did you manage to pursue your passion for software engineering while also, focusing decently on academics?
Uh, yeah, so again, like I will say, it's an interest. So I knew that I had an interest in computer science. So in minor slot, I used to take courses of computer science. So I had done bunch of courses, like Algo, NDS, and like bunch of things in the minor slot. So I had I had basic knowledge of the things. And yeah, and in free time I used to work on Android app development, build stuff, and read things. So actually it's again like enthusiasm. If you have enthusiasm and interest, you will find a time out of 24 hours, I'm sure. Like you can find it out. You can arrange your timings in a way that you have some time to read stuff about your computer science interest. So yeah, I will say that.
Who is like a is it? Question is
Yashwardhan, you're still not audible. Can you look into that?
am I
Maybe till
audible?
then, like,
Yeah,
still, yeah, if you can be a bit more louder, then I think it might be good.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so am I audible now?
yeah.
Yeah,
Now you're fine. Yeah,
much
now
better,
you're good.
much
Yeah,
better.
much better. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so the next question is also kind of similar. So is that like doing Coursera courses, does it really matter in the long run, and does it also provide value to you as an individual and for the company?
I don't. I feel like Coursera courses gets you started really well, but like it does it add value to the companies? I don't think so. Like the companies look into what kind of hands-on project you have worked on and what kind of deep knowledge you have in things. The Coursera courses will just get you started, but that will not be helpful in helpful for companies or getting into companies. So for getting into companies, you will have to build your own stuff and build your own software. But Coursera and any tutorial videos are best to get you started and get you interested in it. Yeah.
So Coursera can be a good starting point.
Yeah.
Next, there are a bunch of questions about open source. So there's a question about like how can a person, say in his second or third year in in IT Bombay, can look for opportunities for starting or contributing to open source project,
Yeah,
or how
actually,
does the open source licensing works generally?
yeah, so that's a good question. So I started working on open source after graduating from IIT Bombay. So um yeah, so I can't really see how we will do it in colleges because you actually don't have much knowledge of the industry and what kind of technologies they use. So actually, you will end up understanding of working on open source when you dive deep and when you start working on the actual projects, then you will see, okay, like this is the missing gap, and you will fill it with the open source projects. So if you in your college, if you have started working on hands-on projects, you can understand, okay, like this module, if I can abstract it out and publish it on open source, will that be helpful? So I think it's for those people who started working on building their own software as a side project in colleges, or even for like I know, like web and coding club and a lot of other, like even hostels have mobile apps now, like bunch of softwares students build on their free time. So while they are building this, they can see like if there is any missing gap, or if I can abstract out this module and push it over to GitHub, will that be helpful? And that will get you hooked into open source. So I will advise that regarding the first point about how you students in their first and second years can go about building this open source profile. Regarding the licensing, so when yeah, so there are different kind of licenses. MIT license, it's usually everyone uses MIT license. So when you open source your projects, you can select what kind of license it has. So I usually select MIT. The MIT license usually allows anyone to contribute. There is no copyright on it, so anyone can download it on in their company for the software and can use it. So there are a bunch of softwares you can check it, a bunch of licenses you can check it out on GitHub. There is BSD as well. A lot of people use it, but MIT is the popular one. So yeah, you can look it up on the on internet. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure the participants will look up what the difference. Next, we have another question from somebody who's starting to learn software development. Says that say once you've learned a bunch of things and you're trying out software, how do you manage to keep a balance between learning new things while also implementing what you already know and building more software?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, that's a good question. So, what I will advise is like, let's say you have learned something, so you go ahead and build some project out of it. And while you build this project, you will understand that like, do you know everything? Like, sometimes we feel like we know most of the things, but when you go and build it, you will understand like, yeah, like there is more you need to learn. So once you find that like like you have understood like there is more to learn into it, then you can go ahead again like learn more about this and maybe use that new learning in the software again. And like at some point you will realize, okay, like now I have a good depth of knowledge. Like obviously like there is a lot of knowledge in one role, and you can dig deep and you will that will never end. But once I think you will understand, okay, I have good enough depth of this field now, so I'm pretty much I can try any other role now. I can try other thing and learn other things. But you need to be first confident with the depth of the interest which you begin with. Like let's say you began with iOS app development, you learned, and then you realized, okay, I have good depth of knowledge, and if someone says go ahead and build this app, I can build it. Like I will not be hesitant, and I will not face any difficulty in building it. So that's a good state to be in, and then you can navigate away to learn something else as well. So yeah, that's my advice. So yeah,
Bef-
like be thorough with the depth first, and in such a way that like you can build the software and then navigate away to breadth. Yeah.
Before we move on to next question, there will I'm putting a feedback form. It's on the chat right now, so I would request everyone to fill this so that we know your feedback. Continuing with questions.
Thank you, Pritesh. So there are a few questions about the roles of UI UX engineers and what exactly is the role of a UI UX engineer at say Facebook.
Okay. So at Facebook, we do not have this differentiation. Like we do not have back-end engineer, we do not have front-end engineer. Everyone is a software engineer. So everyone can work at any stack. No one is forced, or no one is meant to be worked or meant to work in a particular stack. So essentially, you can come in to Facebook as a software engineer, and you can start working on any project and like any stack, and like no one will say anything unless like obviously it's helpful for the company. So yeah, like there is no such role. um, but like yeah, like but still some engineers prefer to work as iOS app developer, Android app developer, and few engineers prefer to work as web front end, which I already said. Like yeah, like they will prefer working on building a UI for Facebook, again similar stuff, but they're not meant to. They can go ahead and work on any stack.
Thank you, Pritesh. And apart from UI UX, there is also a question about competitive programming. How important is competitive programming for getting getting your foot in the door and being hired as a software engineer?
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I keep getting this question. Like even I used to think before as to why we need competitive coding for getting into this company. So yeah, like you will not use competitive programming or coding in your day-to-day work, but I think it helps them to see like do you understand edge cases? Like, do you think about the edge cases or not? Like, are you writing the most efficient program or not? Because one, like, even I used to think like it's not helpful anyway in your day-to-day work, but uh, that came in handy when I was working on one of the C++ projects, which I said. So it does come in handy. So it's not like it's just there for candidates to be annoyed, but yeah, like it serves a purpose as to whether you can think it in a memory efficient way, in a time efficient way, and even you can think of the edge cases, because most of the times candidates forget writing edge cases, forget about the edge cases, and they focus on writing the most efficient solution, and even that is not acceptable. Like, if you miss edge cases, like, the program might fail, right? So yeah, like it's helpful in your day to day. So not in day to day, but it might come in handy at some point. And of course, edge cases comes in handy in your day to day project and writing efficient code. So yeah, I think it's helpful.
Yeah, correct. And also, comparative does help a company evaluate prospective
Yeah,
software.
yeah, yeah.
So the next few questions are, I think you might have answered it before. So it's a question about depth versus breadth. Whether when you're starting out, you should look at different areas in software engineering like web dev or backend or Android or iOS, or should you pick one topic and learn
I
learn
I
a
will
lot
say,
about it and
yeah, I
go
will say
there.
pick one, go in depth till the point where you feel okay, now I can try something else. Like, if someone turns, like, you should be confident that if someone tomorrow comes up and says, hey, like, I want to build this software, can you build this thing? So you should be confident of saying, okay, I can build this thing. And when you are in that state, I will advise it, like, you can try out different roles, different streams.
Correct. So there are again a few UI UX questions. He asks that do you think whether UI or UX roles will be quickly automated in the future, given the advent of AI and we have seen the GPT-3 in works?
Mm, I'm not sure, like, because like, if you automation can take you to a certain point, like, it will not have a good experience. Like, I think it might not be able to build lucid UIs. Like, it might be able to build static kind of UI, like a page with HTML, with text. It might not have any. If it doesn't have any animation, it can be built with the automation. But if you want to have some user interaction with it, some animation, some cool stuff happening, I think that might not be possible with AI ML. That's my personal take. Anyways, like, as someone mentioned, like, we have automation in place for uh, for generating documentation, websites, for generating a lot of stuff. So yeah, like, automation can generate UI, but it will be so basic. Like, if your software or if your main page is using that, users won't like it. So yeah, like, you can use it for creating documentation pages and do bunch of things, but not for animation stuff. Yeah.
Thank you. So right now, again, continuing with depth versus breadth. Say if you choose a topic like web development, and there are a lot of frameworks in web development like Node and Ruby on Rails, Django. So how do you suggest, like, how should one start with even after picking a topic, how should one start with picking an exact language or a framework and then continuing to develop that in that framework?
Yeah. Um, all right. I think, yeah, that's a good question. So what I usually do is, like, before picking any technology or deciding on this stuff, I do a thorough research as to what uh, what are the drawbacks of each of this technologies, like Ruby on Rails. Like, what is the drawback? So it's convention based. So okay, like do am I concerned about it? But the benefit is that like you can iterate on it faster. But on Django, like you can configure a bunch of things and but I'm not sure. Like I haven't worked on Django, but yeah, like so like there are a bunch of drawbacks, pros and cons for each and every tech stack. So like it again depends as to what kind of design spec you want, like what kind of things you are fine with, or like it again like it's totally on you. Like if you want to iterate faster, then go with Ruby on Rails. Like do, but you will have to do a research. And also secondly, if you know a particular language and like that language, like Python and Django uses Python, I think so. So maybe like that can be a good starting point for you to use Django. So yeah, I think yeah, do your research. I think I would say that.
Yeah. Also, there's a follow-up question. Say, so in a lot of these cases, you might have to do a lot of research, as you said. So how do you actually get to know about the internal workings of the software that you're going to start out with, say Django or Ruby?
Uh, I think everything is listed on the documentation page, and you can go through the documentation. Like I will say, like read documentation thoroughly because I most of like people miss out reading on the documentation. They just skim through it. I will say like look into it properly before deciding any technologies, and it's most of the times written over there, and you can see blogs also written by many software developers who have in-depth knowledge of these fields. So they you will find those blogs if you search on Google. So even most of the open source developers or developers working on these technologies are active on Twitter. So you can follow them, and they regularly tweet about the new things, the new things people are working on, new releases or new updates in a particular software. So you will keep getting regular tweets, and so you will know, okay, like now this has been improved. So now this is no more a con for me. So you will keep learning things on daily basis if you follow these people around. So that's why I gave the Twitter. Like I'm not that active right now, but when I was very active on open source, so I used to follow many developers on Twitter. So yeah, even right now, like I follow few and get daily updates.
Yes, correct. And even I would like to add to that. Say, if you're just starting out, then any language or framework which sounds fancy to you, or
Yeah. Hello, like your voice is gone now. I can't.
I
Look.
think Yashwardhan is facing some issues. Yashwardhan, are you still with us? I think he has some. Yeah, he's back, I think.
okay, maybe I should wait for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yashwardhan, I think we can continue with the Q&A.
Yeah. Okay. So there are a bunch of questions about how you got into Facebook and what is the process of your application, and even after getting into Facebook, how is your current work environment, and what are a few projects that you can share that you're working on? How are the hours of your work and so on?
Yeah. So I will go into that. So yeah, like I used to work at housing for as an iOS app developer, and during that time I was quite active on open source, and I used to also write blogs. I had a website. I wrote blogs about how to improve things in iOS app development, how you can do better testing and bunch of things around. And I think like after a few months into that, I got a reach out from a recruiter from Facebook on LinkedIn, and he said that okay, like we are looking to hire iOS developers, and and they will be happy to have an interview with me. So I had 8 rounds, like one on site, not sorry, like one round of interview on telephone and six on site interviews. So yeah, like, and then like I went through, like I qualified, like I passed the interviews and I joined Facebook London. So that's how I got into Facebook London. So I will say like having a thorough in-depth knowledge of iOS app development, being active on open source, having projects to back it up, helped me to get into Facebook. And like at Facebook again, like I mentioned, like you do not, you can stick to iOS and you can just work on iOS app development, but uh, I didn't want to do that, so I wanted to try something new. So I started working on the project called Yoga, which is again an open source project. You can check it out on GitHub. So it's owned by, again, like distributed, or not owned, like it's a not wrong term. It's distributed by Facebook. So it's an open source thing. So it's a C++ little library for rendering UI. So I worked on that library, and then I moved on to working again on an open source project called Flipper. So if you check out fpflipper.com, so you will see the software. Like it's a debugging Mac, or not a Mac. It's a debugging application for Mac, Linux, Windows, and you can use that application to debug mobile apps. So you can see network calls, layout hierarchy, crashes, bunch of things, and you can build your own logic on top of it. And a lot of companies use it now. Like we keep getting requests on GitHub from a lot of companies. So like it's kind of popular. It's kind of becoming popular right now. And yeah, but during this, like this tech stack involved, like the Flipper involved a lot of tech stacks. So I like it has Rust in it, it has JavaScript, Electron like in it, and then it has Android SDK along with it. So I worked on again Android side, Java on Objective C for iOS, like Objective C Swift for iOS. And again, while building this, we had some backend interactions as well. So I had to work on backend stuff as well. So yeah, like this project involved me like working on bunch of the tech stacks. So that's what I'm currently working on. And regarding the working hours, so um, we do not have as such like you have to come in at like you have to start working at 10, and otherwise there will be some consequences. It's not like that. You can work according to your timing, but usually like 7 to 8 hours is recommended. So I usually work on my timing. I do not have a schedule, so sometimes I work till late but start late as well. So yeah, but again, like you have to attend meetings. If there is any meeting, obviously you have to attend that. You can't skip that. But yeah, like the work is kind of flexible work timing, so it's not a big deal. Yeah.
Thank you, Pritesh. So there
Yeah.
are also a few add-on questions about the work environment at Facebook. So if you want to do a hobby project on the side that might be useful to Facebook later, which is not currently in your plan of things to do, how easy it is to start experimenting at Facebook.
So usually, like Facebook is very supportive of this. So like you can actually talk to your manager, and if you can say that like this project sounds impactful or sounds helpful for Facebook, and you would like to work on it. So he will be happy for you to spare some time on it and check it out. Like he will not say like okay, like do not work on this. This is the high price stuff, but like yeah, he will say that okay, like it's fine, you can work on it. He will ask, like he will maybe set something up so that he can have meeting with you to understand what is the impact, and like you can go ahead and build that stuff. So one of the example which like a lot of good projects in Facebook has been built from hackathons. So that's a good culture at Facebook. So we have I think once in a half, one hackathon, like once a half hackathon. So yeah, as far as I know. So you can go ahead and build any impactful such kind of projects over there as well. And then like if the panel feels like okay, like this is helpful, like a full-fledged team can come out of it. So I think Flipper, like even this Flipper project which I worked on was started by one man, and he initially wanted to try this out in the free time, and like a value came out of it, and then a whole team is now working around this. So it's actually possible, and they are very supportive of this.
That's amazing. I think if you are allowed to, work on your stuff on the side,
Yeah.
it keeps the mood up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there are a few more questions about open source contribution. Say like you said that you started contributing to open source projects after your graduation,
Yeah.
and so these our attendees are asking for like a few ideas for project work which can be done in their UG years to gain more experience.
Hmm. Uh, yeah, like I think uh, let's say you just for electrical context, most of the times you write simulations, right, on MATLAB or something like that, and like or come up with some solution or use some models. Maybe like if you can think, okay, can is this novel enough, or is this something which is open sourceable? If you write any like for your UG projects, if you're writing any code or any such compilable things or any such things out, and just give it a thought as to uh, if I can publish it on open source, will that be helpful for anyone else? And like if the answer is yes, then maybe go ahead and publish it. And if you feel like okay, this might not be useful, but if I had this and that, then it might be useful. So then go ahead and build it. Like you will have to give it a thought. Like okay, I'm working on this. So can I do it or help others as well? And again, like if you are working on any software development projects in your free time, of course, you can think about abstracting out things and publishing it. But in your day-to-day UG courses, if you're writing any code, just give it a thought.
Thank you, Pritesh. So I
Yeah.
think we are almost done with the questions. I don't see any more new questions here.
Okay.
So I would just like to, thank you for taking your time out of your busy
Yeah.
schedule and talking to our students. And I
Yeah.
hope like some of these students are inspired enough and they join you at Facebook later.
Oh, I will be happy to have them. My, my pleasure actually talking with you guys and talking with the students. Like it's so good that like they will come to know and learn about this in their UG years so that they can work on the profile and that will be helpful for them. So yeah, I'm excited like to see uh, any new projects coming up, and let me know if any new projects come up. I will see like what are those, maybe try it out.
Yeah, sure. So
Yeah,
can you just switch the slide to the previous one? A few of them wanted to see your contacts.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
Thank you.